Hi, my name is Abigail Melson. I'm pleased to be presenting to you my Makerspace program for my Capstone Seminar 2020. This semester we've been talking about the plastic problem, and I'm sure many of you are familiar with the jarring statistics regarding the plastic problem, specifically in New York where we have an issue of rainwater pushing plastics and other domestic waste into the Hudson River. So this semester we've also partnered with Park River Plastics and an initiative by the Hudson River Park Trust, who are making strides to combat plastic pollution endangering the Hudson River, and in my opinion that begins with education. To map out the educational programming that Hudson River Park already has in place, I've divided everything into two categories: family and community programs and school programs. The programs that you see highlighted in green, the open field lab, science Saturdays, holiday camps, after school programs, and pollution solutions, are the ones that I've drawn inspiration from for my project. My project is a designed makerspace. A makerspace is a designated area stocked with social, emotional resources and physical resources that promote creativity and experimentation for our students. The Park Over Plastic Makers program is connecting marine science to pollution solutions with the principles of STEM. The population I'm aiming to serve are students in 4th to 6th grade, and it will act as a 1-week after school or holiday camp program, each session running from 1 hour to an hour and a half. The guiding principles, again, are based on STEM. Over the course of a week, students will be empowered to work on their Makers project and have a presentation on the 5th day. Each day they'll have time to work on the project and also have other time for additional experiments and activities. So what I've designed is a student flip book for the participating students. On the first page, of course, there's a letter to our students and parents, and then the rest of the book maps out the steps of becoming a maker and creating a maker's project: revisions, pitching, planning, sketching, etc. Along with the student book, I've designed a book for educators. This book has all of the curriculum in it. It highlights where the curriculum matches the student workbook. It has goals for each day, and it has links to other materials to aid educators in being successful throughout this program. Of course, at the end of the program, each student will get a maker's certificate to commemorate their time with Hudson River Park. After I designed the curriculum and the booklets, I got some user feedback from a student in the correct age group, a parent, and an educator. These focused on accessibility, appeal, age group, goals, and language use. After getting their feedback, I was able to better adapt the curriculum. The potential outcomes of this program are the application of STEM practices using makerspaces and increased awareness of plastic pollution in the Hudson River, ecosystem and dynamics of the Hudson River, and behaviors that promote a healthier environment. Thank you.
For my Park Over Plastic capstone, I created visualizations for CSOs, which are combined sewer overflows. I was inspired by the Hudson River Park Trust's presentation to us because it really highlighted these CSOs as a method by which plastic gets into the Hudson River ecosystem. I wanted to make visualizations that could appeal to a variety of audiences. I really like to use watercolor pencil, so that was the medium that I chose. I really thought it was important to just link the geography, the placement of your body within the park to these combined sewer overflow events, which is why I created the map. I wanted to link our daily water use, our toilets, sinks, washing machines, showers, to a different type of plastic pollution, which is microplastics, which can come from the fibers of our clothes and get into the sewer system when we wash our clothes. And I really wanted to have a good visualization for how CSOs actually work, which is why I have the panel with the pipes showing how plastic can actually make it from our homes or from storm drains into the Hudson River estuary. Lastly, I really wanted to tie, our street pollution, which is a big problem in New York City. You see, a lot of litter on the streets. I really wanted to tie, that visual into the CSO visual because that's how large pieces of plastic, the type of styrofoam, and packaging that we were picking up when we did beach cleanups with the Hudson River Park Trust get into the Hudson River estuary and damage the ecosystem. I originally intended these 4 panels to be physical installations, so signage in the park. But as I worked on them on my computer, I realized that they could also be pretty effective digital visuals. So here they are in their, finalized form. I just want to say thank you to Clarissa and thank you to the Hudson River Park Trust for all the inspiration and the help.
Project is focusing on the Hudson River estuary underwater. It's 3 PowerPoint presentations about 3 different species. The problem it's tackling is microplastic consumption by these species. It's meant to raise awareness about how plastic pollution is impacting these species, and the audience is meant to be ranging from kids to adults who are not environmental experts. So I'll run through the slides quickly due to time. The diamond terrapin turtle is the first one. This is a little slide about where they're found in the estuary, what they consume in the estuary, the microplastics in the estuary in 2019. Here you can see the turtle is about to consume microplastics. It's just an example of how they might ingest them, the stomach of the turtle, and the fact that toxins are leaching into their stomachs. And here they disappear due to all of the given. The consumption of microplastics in extreme cases can lead to the disappearance of the individual within the species or the species in general in extreme cases. And then biomagnification is a key environmental term that I thought related to this, but is also just a good way to give a definition of a term for the general knowledge. And here the turtle comes back with some solutions of ways you can help to sort of end on a positive note. The next species I talk about is the lion seahorse. It's the same idea. Here they are in their habitat, what they consume, the microplastics in the environment. Here you can see they're about to consume or ingest microplastics, and a little bit about how they do that, their stomachs, the toxins. And here they disappear. The indicator species is again the environmental term that I used in this one. The point of these slideshows is sort of to tell a story about each species so you captivate the attention of the audience. And that's sort of where some of my main research came from, is just looking at, here they're back again, I'll go to the next one, looking at the behaviors of the species, how they interact with microplastics, what they consume, how they are reacting to microplastics, and how, they're consuming them. So there's a blue crab, their stomachs, and keystone species are the main environmental topic that I touched on here. And yes. So the point of these slideshows is that they can be used on the website for people to click through at their own pace, which is not what I've done here, but you would essentially use them that way, or for the Hudson River Park Trust to use them as educational material. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Claire Yin, and for my Capstone project, I created a series of 5 posters designed to inform the general public on how they can contribute to the Park Over Plastic initiative, as well as why this initiative is important to not only Hudson River Park, but the environment we all live in. This first poster connects the series of posters and lists 4 main ways in which the public can contribute to the initiative. Each section here is representative of a poster that will be shown subsequently. This poster concerns the Hudson River Park composting program and begins with a statistical analysis on why composting is important. The poster goes on to give a step-by-step guide on how one can contribute compost to the park, focusing on what to compost and where the compost can be dropped off. The poster also includes a cartographic data visualization on the different amounts of compost by weight that have been dropped off at Hudson River Park in 2018, allowing viewers to easily see exactly where their compost can be dropped off. The third poster concerns recycling and includes several data points on how much plastic waste is generated in the U.S. and what percentage of this waste is actually recycled. It also includes information on the source-separated recycling system in NYC so audiences can learn how to properly separate their waste and recyclables. The data visualization here is extrapolated from annual data from the Department of Sanitation and gives a visual representation of not only the constitution of curbside collections in the past decade, but the recycling diversion rate as well. The fourth poster concerns plastic alternatives and is designed to encourage the reduction of the use of single-use plastic. It begins with a visual representation on which states have banned or taxed plastic bags, with New York being one of them, and continues with another visual representation of what types of plastic are still polluting the Hudson River. The rest of the poster focuses on various plastic alternatives to everything from plastic bottles to plastic utensils, with links to where one can purchase these alternatives provided accordingly. The final poster gives an outline of volunteering events that the Hudson River Park hosts, namely the Pumpkin Smash, the Composting Workshop, and the Shoreline Cleanup. Each event is listed with a description and information on how one can sign up for it. The data visualization here gives the highlights of what Park Over Plastic has achieved in 2019, with each element of the picture representing a specific achievement. For instance, each blade of grass represents 1 pound of compost that was contributed by the 2019 Pumpkin Smash, and each tree represents 1 recycling bin that was added to the park.
Hi everyone, this is the final presentation for Park Over Plastic by Nanjun. My project is a garbage bin sculptural design, and here is how it may look like in Hudson River Park. The message I want to express is that we need to replace non-recyclable plastic by the recyclable one because it has less environmental impact. The target audience would be visitors who are throwing plastic waste into the garbage bin. This design can be a replacement of current garbage bins, or it can be a purely sculptural design placed beside the existing bins. All the images around the bins will be made out of plastic pieces collected from the Hudson River. This is an expanded view of my design, and here are the details. The front side will show the afterlife of non-recyclable plastics and the process of bioaccumulation. The non-recyclable plastics will gradually break down into microplastics. Once the animals eat them, they will get passed down through the food chain and may eventually enter our food. On the contrast, the backside will show the afterlife of recyclable plastics. They are likely to be made into reusable items like benches, clothes that can last significantly longer. The left and right will be some data about the topic. The left shows the proportion of plastic found in Hudson River Park and the data visualization of the thing that we need to target first, foam and bottles. The right says that 80% of plastic are non-recyclable, reflecting that the core message of this design is significant. The top view shows that there are two rooms in the garbage bin. One is recyclable and the other is non-recyclable, and there are much more non-recyclable plastic in the park, which is problematic. Due to the graphic design, I think a cubic garbage bin may be a better fit of the project. So I demonstrate how it may look like on a cubic garbage bin at Hudson River Park. Just want to apply the design, this may be a better choice. Welcome for questions, and thank you for your time.
Hello all. For my senior capstone, I've chosen to remake the sewer in a suitcase model utilized for the Hudson River Park Trust. I call my version CSO, or Cased Sewer Overflow. Combined sewer overflow is a problem for the Hudson River Park Trust because it often allows for untreated water, which carries plastics and other pollutants into the Hudson River itself. Combined sewer overflow is a bit of a difficult problem to visualize, and so the Hudson River Park Trust utilizes the sewer in a suitcase model to explain the issue. However, I found that me and the Hudson River Park Trust found that the model is clunky, difficult to clean, and in my personal opinion, kind of involved and complicated. So I wanted to design a sewer in a suitcase model that can be used specifically for the Hudson River Park Trust. That's a sleeker, more straightforward way to to visualize the issue. The real model would ideally be made of stainless steel sheet metal, painted colorfully, and featuring a plexiglass back and pipes in order to actually be able to see combined sewer overflow in action. My model also includes built-in instruction panels on the plexiglass side so that any user can interact with it and utilize it. The primary goal is user interaction and education on the plastics problem, and I think that this model could be used on field trips as well as in a museum. Thank you very much. Alright guys, this is how I'd want my model to work. It opens up like this. This is technically the back. There would be a plexiglass backing here, and these pipes would be also made out of plexiglass here. Now I'm going to simulate normal or wet weather. Then take some pollutants, sprinkle them in there. Then I'm going to take some water, not a lot, and just kind of pour it through the top. And then as you can see, the water travels down the pipe, gets stopped here by the treatment plant, and the pollutants don't come through, but the water comes out by the treatment plant. I'm now going to simulate wet weather by pouring a lot more water more rapidly out. And as you can see, some pollutants were able to come out over here. This was overwhelmed, therefore combined sewer overflow occurred and more pollutants spewed out from both ends.
Hi, my name is Lily Walsingham, and I was super inspired by the Hudson River Park Over Plastic initiative. After a lot of depressing research looking deeper into not only the plastic problem in the Hudson, but globally, I wanted to create something that was fun, both to make and use, but also educational, pointing out how dire the situation is for marine life. So after a lot of brainstorming, I came up with my idea, a life-size sturgeon game. As a college student and environmental activist, I know education is a huge step in making change, not just locally, but system-wide. I also know that children are amazing teachers themselves and usually share what they've learned with others, like parents and neighbors, and people tend to be more receptive to that information. So, I created a game geared towards children, but I know all age ranges will appreciate it. The game also features one of my favorite native fish, the Atlantic sturgeon. These river giants are anadromous, and fishermen used to actually hesitate to take their boats out during breeding season for fear of capsizing, but thanks to their tasty eggs, known as caviar, the species has basically been decimated. So, how do we play this game? I've created an instruction pamphlet so people can play at home, and it includes some amazing information on like biomagnification and what sturgeon actually eat and why we should care. The instructions are simple. Grab something to use as food, in this case I'm using bobbins, and set a timer. My instructions say for a minute, but you can do however long you want. Once you've got the timer set, just scatter your pieces. You're going to want to pick them up as fast as possible and feed them to your sturgeon. If you're playing from home, you can always use like a paper bag or something to replicate my sturgeon. Once your sturgeon's had its fill, you're going to want to open them up and grab all the food out so you can sort it. Ideally, you'll have a lot more pieces to count, but just for this demo, I wanted to keep it short. But count your pieces out, and every fourth piece you're going to put into a separate pile. After you've finished sorting your pieces, the second pile is going to be how much plastic your sturgeon has consumed. Personally, I'm a very hands-on learner, so being able to actually count and separate how much food and plastic is being consumed really solidifies the message. So, thank you so much for watching. Bye!
Plastic bag and plastic film collection and plastic yarn workshop are kind of what I ended up titling it. Hopefully my internet's good. I'm sitting outside to try to be as close to the internet as possible, so we'll see how it goes. So here's my first item that I made. It's kind of a flyer explaining where I was coming from for this project. But before I go into it more in detail, I just wanted to share a little bit about where I was coming from. I think for me, I liked the idea of working with plastic bags to emphasize what you guys touched on when we first visited Hudson River Park about like the importance of materials. And so I was specifically inspired by your like plastic consciousness exercise that you guys did, trying to get like anyone who comes in to really take a second and look at the amount of plastic that's on their body. So I'm hoping that like plastic bags can by turning plastic bags into a material that can be used creatively, it can contribute to that mission of Park Over Plastic to like inspire more consciousness about the waste around us. The first part of my flyer is just giving some facts about like emphasizing that plastic comes from oil, emphasizing like the amount of bags that are used and the amount of time that they exist in the world, and then touching on the fact that they're very difficult to conventionally recycle. The middle goes into a little more details about costing the city millions of dollars, but when I was rereading it just a second ago, I wish I just said costing the city in general, because I also talk about how it's costing the city in health in the last point, saying that plastic bags are disproportionately transported through and processed in minority low-income neighborhoods, contributing to the amount of spot clogging NYC lungs. And then the third part is kind of like the call to action, getting people to think like every plastic bag you encounter will exist on this planet for thousands of years. Take some time today to look at all the plastic around you. Can you imagine a way to save this valuable material from an eternity of causing ecological harm? And then I said Hudson River Park, but I tried to like not include the Hudson River Park name as much because I wasn't sure if you guys would want to change any of the text, but at Hudson River Park, we believe that you can. All it takes is a little creativity. So here's my next visual that I created. It's like a system map, making the case for possibly setting up a collection bin at Hudson River Park. So plastic bags are very difficult to recycle, as we just talked on, but also they're the collection bins that would get a plastic bag to actually, like a recycling center that would actually be able to recycle it are very few in New York City. So the idea of setting up a collection bin open to the public at Hudson River Park made me kind of excited. You can see that the bags would come in from people and park goers. You could even collect plastic film from like local businesses or tenants that are on the Hudson River grounds. I know that you're trying to reduce their overall plastic, but plastic film tends to find its way into most tenants, so I'm sure they would probably have some to contribute. And then bags that are found from the Hudson River that could be easily sanitized could also be added to the collection bin. And then the collection bin would be emptied into a public storage space that anyone could contact the park and ask for bulk quantities of plastic bags. I'm someone who likes to create with waste, and part of what I like about it is looking for the material, but something that I realize a lot of people's walls are between them and pursuing waste creations that they want to pursue or that they've seen other people doing is that they don't necessarily want to be digging through trash cans or texting multiple friends to try to collect like hundreds of bags. So it'd be cool if the collection bin at Hudson River Park could serve as like just a free source for creatives trying to use waste, specifically plastic film. And then the plastic film could be used possibly in like maker spaces that have been already mentioned, but also shops. And you can make Plarn out of one plastic bag in a few minutes. So if you had each person do like 5 bag worth and loop them all together and collect that Plarn, then we'd also be able to give people the finished product of Plarn instead of just the plastic bag, so they wouldn't have to like do all the cutting themselves, just further enabling people or getting people closer to the step of using plastic yarn and to create things. And then I said some synthetic bags, less than 100 bags. And then the 500 bags is a number that I got from multiple different charities that I found that are doing plastic mats to give to people that are experiencing homelessness. I think that would be really cool. Like we could try to meet a goal of 500 bags or something like that. Just to know that it would go directly into something like that is exciting. And then it's important to remember that we need institutional change to truly stop the amount of plastic film entering our terrestrial and freshwater ecosystems. Individual action is always more impactful and part of a larger movement. So I thought that like tie it back into the environmental justice aspect that I know is important to the Park Over Plastic program. This one is just a different version that's including the Plarn storage idea that I mentioned. So like specifically storing plastic yarn, not just plastic bags. So it's basically the same diagram, but it just includes the storage aspect, Plarn, for plastic yarn. And then I created a how to make plastic yarn guide. The GIFs that I showed you guys last class, and the GIFs are publicly available online, and I included the link in this presentation, but this is just showing it more written down. And here are some very quick activities that can be made with less than, and it's specifically macrame friendship bracelets, or if a child like doesn't get the hang of it and can't finish within the right time, they could be like keychains. But there's lots of materials about how to do macrame, and I created 2 examples, and I think they look really cool. And I think that teaching kids like crafting skills in general is really empowering, especially crafting from waste, because it's free and it's available and it's everywhere, and yeah. And every time that I still, if like when I can come back to the city, I would love to give to the park to do whatever they want with it. I think it's a really like pleasing way to visualize the 33 bags that went into it, and like it's really fun to touch. And I don't know, I think it further goes into kind of like, I don't know if this would spark excitement in a child. If I saw this as a child, it would really make me excited. So I think that, yeah.
Hello, my name is Maddie, and I'm excited to talk to you all about my project for the Park Over Plastic capstone. The Park Over Plastic initiative has launched a journey towards severing our dependence on single-use plastics. With a community-based, solutions-focused approach, the initiative provides resources for how to move forward into a cleaner, more just future. Leaders of the initiative seem to know where they want to go, so I was interested in how exactly we arrived at this launching point. My project for the seminar is a timeline of events leading up to the creation of the Park Over Plastic initiative. The nearly 250 events that I've selected, the timeline, fall most broadly into the categories on the left. I decided to focus on these particular pathways because when thinking about topics that are typically identified as environmental issues, such as plastic pollution, it's important to remain grounded in the interconnectedness between the social and the biophysical. My intentions in making this timeline are to begin to communicate the importance of including stories about social histories when discussing the contemporary moment of the single-use plastics crisis. I decided to make sample signs for the 1980s and the 1990s because they are particularly influential decades in the environmental movement and in the story of the creation of Hudson River Park. I made some additional individual year signs for selected years throughout the timeline. In the 1980s, consumers began to have a different relationship with single-use plastics for a variety of reasons. And additionally, the Westway project, which was proposed to replace the dilapidated West Side Highway, was officially abandoned. The Westside would have required the city to demolish the West Side piers and replace them with landfill in order to build a new highway. So the failure of the Westway is an important moment in the eventual creation of the park that we know today. This is an example sign zooming in on a particular year within the 1980s. The purpose of this sign is to give some additional detail about the significance of some of the events from the decade. The 1990s lead up to the creation of Hudson River Park, and this sign depicts events leading up to the acceptance of the park proposal in the Hudson River Park Act in 1998. In the world of plastics, bottled water companies expanded production, and New York waste continued to be exported outside of the state. Fast forward to 2018, which is the year before Hudson River Park launched Park Over Plastic, and there's a lot happening in the world of plastics and waste reduction movements. Timeline signs could be located throughout the length of the park in areas where people spend extended amounts of time. The decade sign could be located at the entrance or beginning of the pier section, and then the individual year signs for that decade could be located along the length of that pier. Having a fuller picture of the place-based, localized history of Hudson River Park contributes to a sense of ownership or personal stake that park goers could feel over reducing single-use plastics. And hopefully, understanding the arc leading up to Park Over Plastic and today's growing culture of plastic consciousness will encourage people to engage with Park Over Plastic throughout the development of the initiative.